Please allow me to introduce Mary Ellen Wiltrout, the woman who's making biology as exciting as a Netflix series. As the director of online and blended learning initiatives at MIT, she's transforming the biology curriculum with the precision of a surgeon and the creativity of a Hollywood director. When she's not busy creating award-winning online courses, she's mentoring the next generation of digital learning stars. Today, Mary Ellen will be tackling the elephant in the room, student engagement in online learning. Remember when MOOCs were the new kid on the block and we realized that not everybody finishes what they start? Well, Mary Ellen is here to delve into the mysteries of self-regulated learning and how to keep students hooked, even when the latest TikTok trend is just a click away. So buckle up and get ready for a session that's more. Over to you, Mary Ellen.
Thank you, Wendy, for that kind introduction. So we'll see what we can discover today, but I know there's a lot more to study and learn on this topic as we go into the future as well. So I'll start with the history that I started working on massive open online courses shortly after Harvard and MIT announced a new nonprofit, edX, and that platform allowed learners from around the world to enroll in free open online courses. And these courses could be taken for a certificate if the learners wanted to complete the course. And there was actual assignments that would be computer graded for the students to do. I worked on this Introduction to Biology course first and started that in the fall of 2012, and then into 2013 we launched this course on edX, and it was one of probably the first 10 courses on edX. Since then, in the Department of Biology at MIT, we've created more than 12 MOOCs, and in these MOOCs we have represented a lot of our core fundamental topics in biology. And with these courses, they have remained popular over time. So what is our current reach in our open online courses? And these data were taken just last week. So the enrollment, that means the students who sign up for these courses by clicking register after they've created a login on edX, they are still in the thousands, for a subject like Introduction to Biology, in which it's the entry level and we would expect it to have the most interest. And then it goes into the hundreds as you get to newer courses that are more advanced. Then you expect some specialization and fewer people maybe to decide to start those courses. But still, overall, we have over 25,000 people who were registered in our courses last week. And over time, that is added up to over 660,000 people who have decided to try a MOOC in biology. So who are these MOOC learners? They vary, by topics, but specifically in our courses, we tend to have people who are students from around the world. I think that's true for most MOOCs. So that may be as early as middle schoolers, high schoolers, college students, graduate students. We have students that are using these materials as supplement or preparation for future study. There's business people who are trying to learn biology for the biotech world, but we also have the computer scientists that are now working in the biotech sector who need to get the background of biology to understand more about what their company does. Since the beginning of open online courses, we've realized that a big population that joins these courses are teachers. So teachers are looking to maybe brush up on the subject they haven't studied in a while, or to work on getting ideas about how they could introduce something to their students in their current teaching. And we have retirees, just people trying to stay active and learn something new. And of course, many more categories. But we know from MOOC learners, the data that many people discussed early on, and then, this is showing for one of our courses, computational biology MOOC over the years 2014, 2019, that although anywhere from 60% to 80% may participate, meaning they clicked at least one time in the course, because registration is free and easy to just enter, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to complete a lot of the course. So the percentages that explore in this course went down to, as low as 6 or 7% to in the 20%. And then those who complete are even fewer, that maybe, typically it's under 10% that actually go through and complete all the activities. And for these MIT courses, we try to keep the rigor the same as what you would find on campus. So these aren't designed to be online courses that are open and a short, quick version that you can do in a few minutes. It's meant to be equivalent to something you would do on campus. And we have broken down some courses into modules like you saw earlier, the genetic series, but they represent what's happening in courses that are the same that MIT students take. And we also know from our MOOC learners that when, in this case, we're looking at data from the introductory biology course over 2019 to 2020 data, because we noticed that although the percent participants that are on the certificate track, meaning they register for this paid certificate track, then indicating that they intend to earn a certificate, that percentage did go up slightly during the pandemic years of 2020. You can see up to 5%. So they mean to finish, but the pandemic did cause the percent who certified, who earned a certificate, that did go down. And so even though more intending to complete, overall the percentage who completed of those did go down. And we noticed something early on in this course, especially. We have a lot of the materials open, self-paced, free, just finish everything for practice. And then it's a competency exam at the end that's cumulative. And only those on the certificate track can take that cumulative exam to try to earn a certificate. But we noticed that a number of people who do get, who sign up for that track don't even try the exam. So they're not even attempting it. And if you change the percentage to the percent of verified track participants who tried the exam and then finished, that percentage who pass go up way higher. But what's happening with these other learners who don't even try the exam, even though they signed up for this track? And then where are they falling off even earlier than that? And you can look at more from this work in the links that I give throughout the presentation. So this all ties to how can we activate internal motivation for learners with such diverse goals and backgrounds. So today we're going to talk about factors that drive self-regulated learning, why revision and change is so important as a mindset in this process of creating open online courses, and even considering how things have changed over time. We know the pandemic had an impact, but we also know that the ease of access to technology and other distractions are just increasing. And then we want to, think about what are concrete strategies for engaging students, and what tricks and tips can we try that are easy, and what are harder things to think about of how we can change the courses to meet the learners. So I'm not an expert in this field, but this is some background in the psychology of things, where there's intrinsic motivation, and that's positively correlated with the quality of performance, but it's positively correlated with performance. And specifically, they've seen that there's an increase in quality of performance for intrinsic motivation, and an increase in quantity of performance when it's extrinsic motivation. And early on, there was some thought that intrinsic was better than extrinsic motivation, and more recent data is showing that they can feed off of each other and build onto each other. So in the workplace study, they found that having an extrinsic motivators has led to better intrinsic motivation as well, where the people who were working were more creative when they were given extrinsic motivators, like some reward at work. So how does this tie for the MOOCs, the learners, and the motivations that they have in MOOCs? And so I discussed some backgrounds of who the people are in MOOCs. But a colleague of mine, Megan Purdue, and some other MIT colleagues put together, Megan did some interviews with MIT MOOC learners to find what are the patterns and why people are deciding to join a MOOC. And they fit into three categories for the most part. Application, where they are in the course to learn a skill for a job or a career or degree kind of outcome. They're thinking about their direct application of the course materials to some other goal. There's exploration, where a number of people are just there to learn something new. They don't necessarily need the certificate for anything. They just want to try to learn something and stay active. And then there's people who are in the course for connection, especially through things like the discussion forum, knowing there's a community of people around a certain topic that are engaging in it, that are live in the moment, and then being part of that connection to MIT and this academic community. So this ties to the idea that our learners, not only are they diverse, but then they actually could vary in their level of intrinsic motivation by course, and the timing and the person, it will vary based on the person. So intrinsic motivation depends on autonomy. And so everyone's coming to MOOCs on their own. They're choosing to be there, but there may be different levels of autonomy depending on the course. Their competency will vary a lot depending on the subject material. The relatedness to their personal world will vary depending on the course topic. The alignment with personal values, again, will just be person dependent. The factors impeding their intrinsic motivation could also vary depending on their world. And then the timing of extrinsic rewards. We know that there is a reward of like getting a certificate, but other rewards may be just having the satisfaction of learning something new and then being able to apply it directly to, and that can vary by learner. In our work, we have put together just a guide of how we use the learning sciences in our MOOCs to design courses so that they hopefully help drive self-regulated learning behaviors, because we're basing this on the education research. So we put together this colorful graph, and it shows relationships between the learning sciences, so things like scaffolding and advanced organizers, concrete examples, authentic learning, worked examples. These are a lot of sort of principles you hear about when you talk about learning design. And then we show the relationship to the different parts of the course. So we have pre-instruction, like goals and objectives and image handouts. And then we have summative assessments and the formative assessments. And then we show how certain learning principles apply to those aspects. So retrieval practices apply to problem sets and test yourself questions. So these applying the learning sciences, these learning sciences also apply to activating internal motivation. So some of that has been shown in the literature, that things like authentic learning or low stakes tasks and testing do help with internal motivation. But you can see that other aspects of the learning sciences, narrative centered learning, where we write our quizzes in a storytelling type of way, where we try to show authentic learning environments and situations where people are in a lab trying to complete an experiment, and then being able to apply that to a real life type of scenario, and giving concrete examples throughout our courses, how those can tie to internal motivation factors, like being able to share, like have a personal tie and relationship to the course materials. And so the more of that we can do, then the more chance that's going to tie to a personal learner situation. So a lot of people, there may be other aspects to designed to just simply help engage people. And I think the very common thing to do and that people will say to do is just make it self-paced. If you don't have any due dates and everything is open, then it will just, more people will finish. The logic is they have no deadlines. There's no, they can finish easier when they're just able to do it whenever they want. But the reality is that when we tested this in our quantitative biology course, these are the data that you saw earlier, that the self-paced runs of the course that were in 2016 and 2017 had lower percentages of learners who explored, completed, or verified. And so even though it was self-paced and they can complete things whenever they wanted, then overall percentages were lower. So just making it self-paced is not an easy answer to this problem of engagement and helping people find their way through the course instead of falling off if they wanted to do more of the course. But there are some other studies that we did that showed factors that do help with engagement. And in some ways, they're surprising. So one common piece of information and advice you'll get when creating video is that the videos should be short. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I think there's just flaws in the blanket statement that videos should be short for engagement, because in a study that we did of our courses showed that when we compared two types of video, on the left, we have an animated series that was scripted. We followed Mayer's principle of design for video to try to have the best principles possible for learning in those videos, compared to an equivalent video of just something happening in the classroom, teaching in the classroom, the board, and some animations or some images in the classroom. You can see that these videos are very different in how they look, but the content is the same in the experiments that we set up. And when you compare these directly, we found that videos it was independent of length. So that we actually saw early on, we started studying this because we saw something weird with these animated videos, that we had less engagement. So in this case, we're showing that you take every video in the course and you plot it, the length of time compared to the percentage of viewers completing the video, that these animated videos had a lower percentage of viewers who completed the video compared to just a standard classroom type of video that we used. And this was looking at all the videos, and this was surprising because we did things for the best learning design with animated studies or with animated video. But if the students aren't even watching the video, then they aren't necessarily going to learn either. So we need to worry about just engagement as a starting point. So another simple thing that we learned that we saw early trends of is just where you put content in a course matters. And this is a practice question that they receive after a video. And if that question is in the video sequence following a video, then we wanted to know, is it more likely to be completed as practice than when it's in another part of the course called something like problem set or practice exam? And in this scenario, we tested this with MIT students, and we set up a random controlled trial where we had in group A, we would show a problem that's inside the video sequence. And then for the next problem, they would have that different problem that would be outside. So the same learner would get every type of scenario and positioning. And then we would end up seeing then how many of these problems are completed by learners, in this case, MIT students, when this are completely optional. They're not for credit, they're not graded, they're just using these problems for practice if they want to. And then we saw that if their problem is given inside the video sequence, then it's much more likely to be completed than when it's outside in a separate section of the course. And this all, ties back to why revision and change are necessary. And so when we were thinking about this topic in terms of how we change individual questions and problems in a course after it's run, then we have a process that we have developed a framework for that we have published, where you run the course, you identify the low performing questions, hypothesize the source for the low performance, evaluate the cause, and then implement revisions. And the value of doing something like this is to reduce frustration or improve clarity to learners as they're going through the materials. So we don't want them to quit or give up because of something that we're doing, and not because, we want the material not to be just easy, but we want the material to not have issues where it's causing a frustrating moment. And so if we look at the identify low performance questions, they can be caused by instructor issues or learner issues, and we would sort them into those two buckets based on causes like the narrowness in the grading, unclear wording, or inadequate scaffolding on our end. Or possibly on the learner end, we may see they need more instructions, they may need to have more scaffolding. It may depend on a prior answer, and then they get the subsequent thing wrong because it relied on something earlier in the questioning. And then we would decide how to revise the question. Is it as simple as adjusting the code, or should we modify wording, emphasizing key instructions, or giving context-specific hints? And then we did a follow-up paper of this work to just show the impact in our cell biology courses. So another aspect of structure and reducing hurdles is that we were looking on the forum, this is, even recently, that a learner just said it's hard to find where the course content starts because you have to click next through many pages of materials. And so as an instructor, you look at your course outline and you think about things sort of like a textbook, where you would have some sort of table of contents, you would have the starting material, but then in a lot of course sites that are in Canvas, Blackboard, or other places, there's always an area of syllabi or course information and resources that may come in the beginning, but we aren't considering how learners interact with the material. And there may be learners like this learner here that just starts at the very first page and clicks next through. Instead of looking at the outline of where to go, they're clicking page by page through the material. So they might not get to real videos or content that you're meaning to be as the course until they go through a frustrating experience of clicking next a bunch of times. So we are starting to reduce that barrier by just removing everything from the beginning and just having links to it. If they want to go look at the course information or other resources, having links to that, but not putting anything before the start of actual course materials. And then, we can add back extrinsic motivators. So in the course where it was Introduction to Biology, we took away a lot of extrinsic motivators in the name of self-paced. We had course materials just open, ungraded, and then only if you wanted to earn a certificate, you could take the competency exam. We then decided recently to try to add back the extrinsic motivator of having just those questions that are in between videos as part of the grade, a small percentage, they're low stakes, but have those be part of the grade so that it can help people stay on track. Because we do know from the data of that course that there's a lot of cramming where people will, a week or two before the course ends or that exam week comes up, that they try to complete a lot of materials quickly, and that study strategy doesn't work too well with a lot of material to go through. So how can we design for these motivations and helping the learners with all these various intrinsic motivations? How can we help that? So in our course design, thinking about autonomy, are we allowing them some choice in how they go through the course? We definitely have to work on that more. The competency, making it really clear what the prerequisites are and what background they need and how to find those background resources if we have those available. Making it clear, concrete examples ties to real life for relatedness or alignment with personal values. In the beginning of today's conference, there was the mention of climate change, sustainability, and at MIT across the board, they're trying to highlight how, no matter what topic it is, how climate change sustainability ties to curriculum in all of our disciplines and not just only a course called climate change. So I think just, adding those sort of aspects to course materials then could maybe tie to some personal values that some learners will find very motivating, and especially in today's world. We can be reducing factors impeding intrinsic motivation when we can find those. And our timing of extrinsic rewards, we could work on more. Where are there ways other than getting a green check if they get a question right? Are there other things we can add as earlier rewards that they don't have to wait until an endpoint like getting a certificate? So with that, I'm going to end and see if we have any time for questions, but thank you, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or by email if you want to learn more.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. So please do go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A section for Mary Ellen, and I'll be happy to voice those for you. Let me see if anyone put any in the regular section. We did have quite a few people asking for the slides because they were so exhaustive. So that's wonderful, Mary Ellen. Thank you.
Thanks.
I was wondering a little bit about, while we're waiting, I do have one in the Q&A. I'm sorry. So Veronique wants to know if you're able to determine the age groups of learning in the MOOC courses, and are there any different levels of engagement between ages?
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't separated out our data by age, but there is access to some of that. All the age data is self-reported, but I think we could see if there is a difference. I would suspect that, the younger learners may be more motivated. Can you hear me? Here still.
I'm not sure what happened here. There we go.
Hi guys, I'm just jumping in here to see if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can too. I thought we lost Mary Ellen for a minute.
Yeah, I hear you.
I will leave you to continue with the Q&A.
Okay, very good. Okay, so Veronique wanted to know if you're able to determine the age groups of learning in MOOC courses, and are there any different levels of engagement?
Yeah, so we do have data on their ages based on self-reporting data, and we do have different categories not too surprising, the highest group is really like in their 20s in a career development kind of stage. But we have not necessarily looked at, or if we did, we didn't find significant trends based on age and engagement. But I think that is something interesting to go back to, especially now. There are talks of, generations having different attitudes towards technology and then how they interact with learning materials. And we know that the newest generation of learners will have learning something online is not new, and it's more the normal for them. So I think it would be interesting to go back and look at current data in that division.
Thank you. We've got a question from Kenji. In terms of self-directed learning, do you think there's a place for AI tutors?
Yes, absolutely. And there's probably a lot of people working on this. And I think if you follow Khan Academy, they have developed a significant AI tutor. And in terms of MOOCs in our courses, we're also considering that question of how can we help this issue of learners maybe feeling frustrated and leaving, or just maybe feeling a lack of community if they're learning on their own. How can we help with AI and generative AI, can there be places to jump in with some sort of chatbot system? And I think for a lot of our MOOCs, we don't want necessarily a chatbot tutor that will give the answer. If they ask, we want them to be more truly like a tutor, like you see with other goals of asking guiding questions, or maybe pointing them to the right place in the course if they're lost, if they're hesitant to discuss that on the forum where it is public.
Well, I think we are out of time. So thanks so much for the great questions in the chat. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. And thank you for the engagement session, Mary Ellen.